What I wanted to do with this session was it's called Outreaching Your Community. And the idea was getting guys, and this is no different from the failure session, learning how to fail and how to fix that, right? And so the outreaching the community is, what are you doing? What is your station doing to reach your community? And so for us, when we came online last year, and I kind of shared a little bit of this, I didn't want to. Now, again, no one in your community knows what a low power FM is. They just don't know that. All they know is they turn on the dial and they hear your station, then they go to the next one and they hear that station, and that's lower in volume, or that sounds like the sports station, or that's CSN or his radio. They don't know that they have no concept of a 100,000 watt to a 50,000 to 13 watts. They have no concept of that. So when we went on the air, again, I never wanted to sound like that. And I remember those days in early CSN days where there was no processing, there was no nothing. In fact, we have a CSN station here, and it's on a crown, and that's it. And it just sounds, that sound. It's just kind of that dry sound. I wanted to sound like K-Love with teaching, and I wanted to blow people's mind in my community with what you and I know is the best Bible teaching in the world. I mean, listen, Damian Kyle, Joe Foch, they knock your block off. Tom Keller. Yeah, come on. I'm giving a plug for him, right? All of these guys that we know that we have benefited from their ministry, right? Now the people in your community get that. So for me, it was all about not being a low power FM. It was acting like a full power in everything I did. And I try to do everything in ministry to the excellence of the Lord, and I want it to be the very best. And yeah, there are compromises with dollars, and you have to figure that out. Where are we going to push money into? So the very first thing that we wanted to accomplish was, okay, people are in their cars, so billboards are on the side of the road, and people drive by billboards. And we thought, okay, let's go. Our billboard company is literally down the street, Lamar. And so we went to them, had a meeting with them. And we said, hey, listen, we're a nonprofit. You got to use those words, right? Nonprofit. What can you do for us? And we had this amazing lady. She's not there anymore. But she said, listen, this is what I'll do for you. Our normal rate is, I think, $1,500 or $1,200. We'll give it to you for $600. And it's on digital signs. So we're not buying paper. It's just digital. And she said, well, here's kind of the problem. If somebody wants to pay to be on the billboard, we'll have to move you off to another billboard. And we said, really? You're going to move us all around the county? Shucks. And it was God saying, listen, I'm going to take this billboard once a month and I'm going to move you all around your listening area. Where normally they don't do that. You have to sign a contract to move to that and move to that and move to that. And it's this big headache. And she would just send me an email, by the way, we're moving you. Oh, great. And she would say, which one do you want to go to? And I would look on the map where the billboards were. Well, I want to go there. Great. In fact, I got an email last night. She says, listen, because we're on 501 right now because the season is changing, so we have much more exposure on there. And so we've been on that for 2 weeks, and she just said, okay, I'm moving you to another location for probably about 3 weeks, then we'll come back to that. Remember, people are in their cars. Billboards are great. And so it's digital. We have 4 that rotate, and we have upbeat music on there, but they're very simple. They're very bold. They're on a black backdrop, and it's like neon green. So you could see it a mile away. It just pops. It's huge. So that was the first thing that we did. The other thing is I wanted to get into the community at every festival we could go to. So what we decided to do was we got the community calendar. We eventually became a part of the chamber. And we just started looking at events. And we would ask them, hey, can we come to your event? And we would promote that event. And remember, if it's nonprofit, you can promote it all day long. And that's our first question is it nonprofit? Yes, great. We'll we'll come to you, we'll promote your event as long as we get to put up our tent. And we try not to pay for space. So if they say, hey, it's 200, no, we're going to promote you, we're going to promote the event, but we want the free space. And pretty much most of the time we get that. We have a tent that's a custom tent, all of these colors. So we decided to go with one color to brand, right? Be fancy with branding. So we stayed with that neon green color, and it stands out. We stand out every time we go out to a festival. We stand out. Now, what you see is what we use inside a building. The first event we did, this is funny, we did a elementary school had a snow globe festival, winter snow globe fest. I didn't know what a snow globe festival was, but I was excited that someone called us and said, could you come to our event? So we did that first event. In fact, they just emailed last night and said, hey, we want you now to come to our career day and talk about radio. Isn't that cool? Into a government school. I love it. So, and then do the snow globe again. So we took that, put our tent up. We had very few promotional items the first time out. And then what you see is a complete year of promotional items, building, figuring out what is good, what to hand out, what not to hand out. We have a popcorn machine that we have in the kitchen that we use. We take out only for certain events. That's so huge. People love free stuff. You need to know that. And they will take junk. It's amazing to me. Why are you picking that up? I don't know. It's free. Yeah. But we did a car show, and we had the popcorn out for the car show. We handed about 1,200 bags of popcorn out. And people were coming up to us and say, hey, can we pay you for the popcorn? No, it's free. And we would talk to them about the radio station. And again, it's just a... and then handing out the cards. I mean, we have gone through thousands of these business cards. Well, now we have a card on the back of it that has our Google Play and App Store, because now we're wanting them to have that app, right? So it's like every month I'm learning and changing the way that we're promoting things. We have a wireless speaker. We take that out with us because honestly, sometimes I can't get the station on a normal radio. So I take my iPhone out and I put it on the top, and it's Bluetooth, and we stream the station. If that doesn't work, I have a little MP3 player that I've made a playlist of about 5 hours that makes a loop. It's got programs, it's got music. I plug that into it. They don't know any different. They don't even know that they're not listening to the station live. They don't know that. But it's a simple system. That's a Samsung battery-powered speaker. Battery-powered. So if you're in a situation where you don't have power, and that's going to happen sometimes, we ask for power all the time, but there are times where that's not going to happen. I don't have the lights on, but those lights are some of our old LED lights from our stage lights, and you'd be amazed. Those lights on that truss, people see that if they're in an event, and they come walking over the table. Something new we did is we had it it's not out here because it's being fixed. We have a wheel. They spin the wheel, and they've got CDs, got pens, T-shirts on there, and they spin the wheel, and people love that. Again, it's just drawing them to the table, and as soon as they come to the table, what we do, we have a Vanna White standing there, and that person will hand out cards and say, are you local, number one? Are you local? Not local in the head. Stop thinking Southwest, would you? And if you're local, have you heard about our station? And I will tell you, over the year of doing events, it's amazing to see how many people are listening to your station. And because we can't track, right? I mean, Rob was talking about, try to get ratings. But honestly, for Low Power FM, you have no idea who's listening to your station until they come up to your booth and talk to you and thank you for what's going on your station. Last year, I talked to you guys about those signs that we have. We have these little yard signs. That's some of the first stuff we ever did. And more people tell us, hey, we found your station because of your signs all around the county. And literally, we put them out everywhere. And sometimes they get taken by the county. But right now, we have a map of Myrtle Beach, and we've broken it into zones. And we have one of our elders, Foy. What he does is every month he rotates into that zone, and he'll go up to a business and say, hey, can we put this sign into your parking lot or your grass for a month? Oh, sure, go ahead. And so what we're doing is we're rotating our image around the county. Over the year, we'll cover the entire county. So don't think we have a very big county and our coverage area, and so a lot of times you're thinking, well, I need to hit the entire coverage area. No, just do one bit at a time, and you'll find that's a lot easier on your volunteers. So that's what we have. We have T-shirts. Find a local T-shirt guy. Don't do them online. That was my first mistake. How many of you have done that mistake, right? Where it's $8 a shirt the first time. And then I went to this local guy in Conway. He charged me $4 a shirt for those gray shirts right there. $4 a shirt for 100 at a time. And I haven't asked him yet, but I think I want to do a trade with him. Hey, listen, we'll promote you, put you on our website, that you are the official WXMB screen printing company, right? If you will give us this break or give us a deal each time. But those are $4. And people love T-shirts. So in the summertime, we have a concert series in Myrtle Beach. And there is an organization, it's a nonprofit, it's called Ground Zero, that are here. And they do all the concerts there. Eventually, I want to be the concert guy in town. And I think radio and music and concerts, those are huge. And eventually to be that station that promotes it, my idea is to do eventually a concert where we bring in people, and it's a family day, and it only costs you $5. I don't know how that's going to work, but get some major corporate sponsors to, Chick-fil-A or whoever. And the Bridge does something like this, right? But it's a family day. Well, this organization, Ground Zero, we got hooked up with them, and they bring in all the major concerts, and they brought in Mercy Me last year. And so we said, listen, we'll promote it if you let us be there. And that was our first concert. And then in the summer, we had 6 concerts every Sunday for 6 weeks on the boardwalk in the downtown Myrtle Beach. And our tent was there, and we're the only radio station there. And we're throwing out T-shirts, and we're talking to Seventh Time Down, and we're getting them to do spots for us because I have a remote mic, right? And I take out my recorder, and I have this little pre-done thing where they read it, and hey, this is Seventh Time Down, and you're listening to WXMB 1015. So we have these bands that have done that for us. It's great, but we were the only one there. Our thing is, our kind of tag is, we're the only locally owned Christian radio station in Myrtle Beach. So if you're make that apparent. If you have his radio or K-Love coming in, they're not here. They're satellite fed in. They're not really connecting with the community like you can. Now, that has been our challenge, communicating that to sponsorship. That is probably our biggest headache right now, is like everyone else, sponsorship. But that 6-week concert series, how much visibility we got just from that was so huge. Just the people that would come up and say, so the first week we're there, and we'd give them a T-shirt. You know what, the second week, you know what they were doing? Wearing our T-shirt at the concert. And then they would listen to the station that week, and they'd come back and say, wow. And every week it just built. And so 6 weeks in the summertime, and then down in Myrtle Beach, and having that evangelist. We have a guy in our church, he has that gift of evangelism. I don't. I'm a pastor teacher. I do the work of evangelism like Lloyd says, but I don't have that gift. But he does. And you know what he would take a stack of those cards, and he would walk up and down the boardwalk just sharing with people about Jesus, telling them about the radio station. So every event we possibly can, we're at. Someone just called last week, Carmen. You know Carmen, that's a flashback of the 90s, right? Or 80s. He's going to be in town. And so this church, and we don't promote other churches. We just don't. If you have a multi-church event, we'll do that. we'll promote that. But we say we don't do a single church event. So that kind of protects us. Well, we'll promote any concert that we kind of agree with that music. And so they're having Carmen. And so he said, hey, can you do that? I said, yes, as long as you will take 500 of my cards and hand them out to every person that walks into your concert. And you'll take my signs and you'll put them up. Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Well, when I was doing that and I was writing the copy for it, and it said, and they said, get your tickets. I never say buy anyway. I just say get your tickets at iTickets. And so when I went in on iTickets, I just put in Myrtle Beach. Well, all of the concerts pull up what's coming into Myrtle Beach that I didn't even know about. So Unspoken and J.J. Weeks Band is coming back to Myrtle Beach. Oh, cool. So, and then it says who the promoter was. Well, it was a local Christian school that does a concert every year. It's a Lutheran school to raise money for their school. Well, I picked up the phone and I called the principal. I said, hey, listen, you're putting on this show? Yeah, we're putting on the show. I said, we'll promote your show if we can be at the concert. It blew him away. He wasn't expecting to get any promotion. So not only did we make that contact and immediately sealed that deal to be with them, and then while I was on that site, Switchfoot and Reliant K is coming to the House of Blues. What? So all in 1 week. And so then I've got a call to the House of Blues, and we've got a guy that we found that we know that is in marketing there. So now we've called them and said, hey, listen, we'll promote it again, but we have to be careful because it's the House of Blues. So we have to kind of figure out how to do that. But if we can come to the event. And the idea is there's a lot of stuff out there that you should be promoting, but we just don't know. And you need staffing, and I know that's hard, but look, I'm the senior pastor here, and doing a lot of that. And we have some volunteers, but sometimes, guys, as the senior pastor, you got to be the one that is out there doing it and helping and getting it running. And I feel like I've kind of laid that groundwork and getting our volunteers, and now they're coming alongside. And we have a couple that all their job is to make sure that table is filled. And they have when you went back to the station, do you see those new cabinets back there? It's all organized. When I had it, it was boxes everywhere. But it's all organized now. But it was because it was my heart to make sure that the station is out into the community. And if the pastor's not behind it, it'll never do anything. The pastor must be behind the radio station. It's like our bookstore. We have tourists that come all the time, and we have pastors that come in. Hey, we love your bookstore. Well, your pastor has to be behind that. If he's not, it won't be anything in your church. The pastor has to be behind it and push stuff sometimes and encourage the volunteers. Hey, listen, this is what I like to do. And I'm pretty much at every event. I will go to the events I want to be there. I want to talk to people. And I realize at some point I'm not going to be able to do all of those events, but I have the time to do that now, so why not go to them and talk to them and share with them? But also you can see that screen. That's the last thing I'll mention. The screen that we have several different screens. That's on a tripod, and I made those slides. So all those are in 1080p, and you can see a lot of these slides that are just from Joe Foch. There's Poncho, right? He doesn't have any imagery. I just took his face and found a level because his program is called what? On the Level. So, and then you can put your sponsors on there, and that just sits there and rotates, and that grabs people's eyes. There are simple things you can do. And someone asked me how much what that costs. I would say that table, not the TV, but the promotional items over the last year, that's about $2,000 that we've spent. And I kind of budgeted about $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 for promotion each year. We give away CDs. Contact the record labels. We got Capitol finally to send us free music. Sent us an entire box of free music to send from Toby Mac on down the line. Because we contacted them and said, hey, we have upbeat music, we have different formats, would you please send it to us? And they sent it to us. I couldn't believe it. So now we bug them, and we've got a list of all of the record labels, and we're trying to hit every single label, even Toby Mac's label. They sent us stuff from Propaganda to Capital Kings, all of this upbeat music. So you just have to do legwork. It's radio. I will give you the wisdom that Bill Lukeman gave me. I was frustrated about my music. I know it's shocking, but hold on. I was frustrated with music when we were inputting it, and you know how you take your WAV file, and we use only WAV for music, and it's not metadated for the most part. And I called him, I said, hey, how can I make this better? And he said, Ron, it is, you have to love what you're doing, number one, and it's just, you have to manually input it, and that's just the way it is. And so you have to have a love for radio. And if you don't love it, it's going to eat you up. But for promoting and outreaching, I feel like now that we've a year of promotion, I think the city is starting to know who we are. When we were at the concert festival, the city of Myrtle Beach came up to our table and said, we want to thank you. This representative, I said, well, why do you want to thank? She said, because you're not acting like the Christians we see that come down here. You have a soft what they see is the Christians with the hate and the placards and all of the stuff that I think Jesus would never do. So what they saw from us was, hey, it's WXMB. They know we're Christian, and they've asked us to do events because of our testimony of just sitting there, loving on people and just, promoting that. And so with the promotion becomes eventually now, finally, people are walking through the door of the church. So it's taken 8 months, and now they're coming in because of the radio station. So if you have any questions on any of the material, I can help you out where we bought stuff, where we've gotten stuff. A lot of that's promotional stuff you can do online. Those cups are like 8 cents a piece, and you get 1,000 of them, But people love cups. I had a whole family come up one time and said, hey, listen, we have 5 people in our family. Can we have 5 cups? Yeah. Yeah. No. Do you listen to the radio station? Here you go. Here's our card. Here's our app. Turn on to it. So any questions, I'll be able to help you. Here is, yes, go ahead.
Just want to go back to, you said you wouldn't do some other event for another church?
We don't promote that church. If they're doing a concert, we will. Okay. But I'm not going to do a holy convocation. Anybody know what that means in the South? Those are Pentecostal meetings. In fact, I got several emails this week about, hey, the bishop so-and-so is coming. Can you promote? We don't do that. Right. So we don't promote. And if Josh McDowell was coming to the seeker-friendly church, yeah, I'd do that. Okay. But it's being, as Rob said, very particular what comes on, because ultimately, and we all know this, it reflects on us. Whether the public knows it or not, it's WXMB that is giving a stamp of approval on that event, and eventually it's Calvary Chapel Myrtle Beach, and I don't want that. And if I don't agree with it, I'm not going to put it on. And I was hesitant almost with Carmen. But I thought, that's kind of funny. It's like a flashback, and I'm sure people would dig that. But for the most part, I'll promote concerts because that's kind of a no-brainer. Because you get unsafe people out there. We had Manifest. He's a kind of a rapper, and he was at the boardwalk doing one of the concert festival. And I will tell you, I was amazed to see how many people were coming off of the boardwalk onto the street, coming to that show. And at the end of it, he gave the gospel message. It was great. You wouldn't think of it. And our volunteers were freaking out because we have a lot of older volunteers. And they're like, what is this music? Don't worry about it. Watch what he's doing. He's pulling people off of the street, and they're listening to this music. And then he nails them. You've got people in bikinis and flip-flops out there, and they're hearing the gospel message. And we're in the audience handing out WXMB cards. So we'll do concerts all day long, but a single church event, I say if it's a multi-church event, we'll do that.
Right. Well, that's what
yeah.
I was asking, because it sounded to me like a church that you agree with was doing a concert, you wouldn't promote it.
No, I would do that, yeah. Yeah, even, and this is funny, even if a church that I don't doctrinally agree with, but that is having the Lutherans are having it. Not that I have anything against them, but some doctrinal stuff we don't agree with, right? But I'm promoting their Lutheran school basically by putting it on the air. In fact, I asked him, I said, hey, talk to the band because we want to do that live on the station. So our goal is when there are concerts in the city, we're going to put those live on the radio station. So that was just for me a no-brainer. So, okay, yes, Rob. Okay, so there's a program I use, and it's on my computer. I'll show you guys. It's just a slideshow. I mean, it's like a $30 program, right? And what you do is you take a 1080p. So this is important for quality. A 1080p photo, and then you just insert it into the slideshow, and then it has these transitions. And at the end, when you make a file, that's a movie file. And on the back of the TV, I have a unit that has a card. And you put the card into it, and it has a built-in loop. It's really cool. I'll show you. You go over there and read the back of it. You can get. I'm going to tell you guys. Most everything I buy is on Amazon. So if it's not on Amazon, I'm not picking it up. So this stuff, and that unit plugs. It's HDMI, comes out, goes right into the TV. And again, you want your volunteers to be able to turn it on, and that's it. And that's what that does. And what I like about it is it gives an image of people, and they're like, well, who is Pastor Chuck? Well, he's going to be on there in a minute. Or who's Tom Keller? Oh, well, though we didn't put Tom Keller's face on there. It wasn't that good. Yeah. Or Family Life, right? We have Family Life on. That's one of our non-Calvary programs. We have only 3 non-Calvary programs on our station. So, but that is an eye catcher. I can't tell you, that's a great tool to use. And you know what? That screen on Amazon right now, 40-inch screen, $200. But make sure it's 1080p. You want to stay, if you're making those slides and that, you want to stay in that flavor. Anybody else? But I'll be able to share with you afterwards all the equipment. You can look at all of it, and I can share with you the software. So go ahead, Jim.
We do several of the same type of things, so I won't repeat all of that. But one of the things that we found for us, if you have maybe a van or something like that, it's fairly inexpensive, and sometimes you can barter it out to get it wrapped. Have any of you done any of that? That's so. Ours is it's probably a 15-seater. Basically looks like what it would have been, an old white church van, except it's black with this similar type of a very bright, green lettering, and the logos all over it, and the station. Now, for us, it's a rolling billboard. Everywhere you go, that thing is seen. It's visible. It's really fairly inexpensive way to really get the word out. It's a talking point. It's great. You pull up anywhere, people everybody gravitates toward it. It's just a funny thing to me, but people just gravitate toward that. So that's something that is really practical and very doable, and I think is very. You get a lot of bang for the buck out of that. I think one of the things that we had done was in just using the radio itself. Was we do a program called Fuse, and it's usually we've been doing it once a week on a Wednesday afternoon. Usually that's when we do it, and it's a live program where I have someone that I've met somewhere in the metro area. For us, it's Kansas City, wherever your county or metro regions or your area where you are. I found someone that I met. They do not have to be directly connected to Calvary Chapel. It's not that. They need to be Christians, and we need to be. I just visit with them long enough to know that we're fairly like-minded. And I have them come on, and I just kind of talk with them, do an live interview with them. And the whole point of fuse is, if any of you have ever welded or are familiar with fusion itself or fusion music, some of you are familiar with fusion music, but fusion is, fuse is to take something and meld it together. It's like a melting of metals, and they become one. When you weld, you're fusing, and it becomes one component then once it's done. And so the body of Christ, really, I know we're very committed to our flavor in the ice cream shop, but I really believe in the 31 flavor thing. I like ice cream, so I'm very committed to the kind that I really like, but I'm still understand that it's, as long as you're ice cream, you're in the ice cream shop. So there's a lot of different Christian groups that are doing different things. I do some church things like that, but not specifically. I really try and steer away from other churches that are just trying to promote their churches, because sometimes it gets kind of weird. So most of the time what we do is it's a women's ministry, the Kansas City Women's Clinic. For example, they're a pro-life group basically, and they have a great ministry. And so I would have them come on, and I would just talk with them. And what happens is, if they are familiar with us, one, we're developing a relationship within the community with other Christians, which is really cool. And then they become very familiar with who we are. They come into the studio, they get exposed to our studio, just like you guys here. And many of you, our studio is actually inside our well, we have a cafe area and stuff. And so it's got glass windows. It's very visible. So there. But that's been real successful. I've had a guy that we met that does ministry. The Missouri River comes right through and kind of cuts Kansas City in half, and it's kind of weird at night if you go out there at night. One of my sons lives along the river, and he actually lives in an apartment along the river, so it's not like some of the other people that I'm going to describe live along the river. But that you can see these little like campfires going and stuff all, and it's people, it's homeless people living along the river. Missouri River is a big river. Not like the Mississippi, but that type of a large river. And a lot of them are vets. And they're just really forlorn. They're really disconnected, and they just are comfortable living out away from everybody. Well, they've got little villages like of them in there. And this guy goes in and ministers. He's a vet. He goes in and ministers to him. It was such a cool thing. And I said, well, is there anything you need? Because I don't mind them saying, hey, if you want to donate to our anything, I let them share their website. Because you know what we really need is just Bible. Someone calls in and says, I've got several cases of Bibles that I can. It was just a cool connection. So now you see the community seeing you as a hub, kind of connecting them with each other to do ministry together. We're better united. That's what's the beauty about, I think, radio. Radio to me is like a taxi cab. I can hop in it and go in all these different places that I could never go to as just a pastor of a church. And I really like connecting with people in the Lord. I really like that. We have a professional soccer team. Sporting Kansas City is our professional team in Kansas City, and they were rebranding and kind of relaunching. They had built a really nice state-of-the-art facility and stuff, and they wanted a faith-based, radio station to connect with. They wanted one, and they were very interested because our general demographic is something that they're very interested in. And so they contacted us and we'd like to talk with you, and so we talk with them, and basically, they give us great seats a lot of the times to the games, but we can pull our van into the pavilion right on this thing. We can talk with anybody we want to talk with. We can hand out Bibles if we want to hand out Bibles. I would caution you on some of this, that you want to be wise about, you don't want to get all up in anybody's grill, because they're there to see a soccer game. They're there with their families. So I'm aware of that. But I had one guy that was, a little bit wasted and wanted to talk. And we had a great talk with him and prayed with him, make sure he had a Bible, and said, look, you're going to feel different tomorrow morning when you wake up. I've been there, done that, so I know who you are. I know what's going on, but, you're going to feel different. But here's something. You can connect with us later. Sometimes I'll talk with people at a restaurant that I'm talking with. agree with Ron. Just being you're a great representative. All of you that are involved in the radio ministry are the best representative of it. And it's like Jesus said about don't put a basket over the light, right? You want to get the light out there. And so we found that just handing out cards or just talking to people, I always tell people, hey, you may not even like some of the music or whatever. That's cool, though, man. Check it out, and then email me. I just want to develop dialogue with them. I want to start interacting with people. So, and we get feedback from all over. One of the greatest things, I know this is one of the things, the radio itself, the station itself, when I was talking about Fuse and having people come on interviewing, I just really encourage you. I think thinking about the ministry as it's a church without walls. I'm really into that thought process, that it's just this giant congregation of people. I'll be sitting up in downtown somewhere, my wife and Lo and I will be sitting there eating or something, and they'll hear us conversation, and they'll come up to us and say, "Are you so-and-so? I listened to the station," because they recognize our voices. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. The radio station itself is a huge is a huge billboard in a sense. It's just in the airwaves because people dial through and they pick up on stuff. I think I don't know how the LPFM part of it works, but as long as the signal's strong enough that when you push and it scans and it'll stop on it while scanning, man, you got a home run. If you push the button and it stops on it when it's scanning, you're in really, it's a big promotion in and of itself. But so I think if you can get out and just even yourselves or encourage the congregation. Sometimes it's hard to get everybody engaged in all of it because everybody likes things and doesn't like things, or likes this speaker, doesn't like that speaker. I don't know. Maybe everybody goes through that a little bit. So, but I think stay true to what the Lord's purposed for your area and what you're doing. I think sensitive to the area, of what's going to work. Y'all could go. If you guys have a county fair, so those kind of things, are great. That's like it. I try and hit as much secular stuff as I can, but that's just that's our attempt at that, and that's why that soccer thing was such a great thing. I mean, where can you get it's the Sprint Pavilion area. It's this big concrete patio area, giant. You pull cars on it and stuff. And where can you pull on and bring a Christian radio station and park right in front and have 20,000 people funneling in front of you? I mean, it's like I just pinch myself anytime we get to do that kind of stuff, And they've actually even promoted us before on their signage at the games. Yeah, it's just crazy. So some of it's just going to happen, but you got to be around and be out there and be talking it up and be engaged with people and stuff. So that's my minimal but a little bit of input that's not redundant. Yes. Probably a couple $1,000, maybe less. Maybe I think we've done them for $1,500 or so. We've had to do it a couple of times. These are one of the fallouts from having to have a signal change.
I can help you with that, Kimberly.
Can I piggyback on something he said? Right, pretty much from the time we started doing a weekend feature called Ministry Spotlight, featuring churches, ministries, and organizations serving the Lord in our community and around the world. And so, and we do pregnancy centers, we do a variety of things, international ministries, local people. The cool thing is when you go to church, talk to a like-minded pastor and say, hey, I'd like to interview you, let you share your testimony, talk about what God is doing in your fellowship. And they go, really? They're floored when you say, I want to put you on my radio station. So I've started doing this out in the field now because we're serving a bigger area. And it's so cool to be able to go into a pastor's study, sit down, let them share the testimony, what's going on at your church, talk about special events. Then we run it on the weekend, we promote it. They can promote it in their fellowship if they want to. Then we put it on the web. So you can go to our website and you can see we do a thing called Community Focus too for public affairs, which is secular stuff. But that's generated a lot of goodwill for us. And, and so then if here's the cool thing, if somebody searches for, let's say, Calvary Chapel, Roanoke, they go on Google, and a lot of times our radio station so if you searched Appomattox or Civil War for a while there, Equip FM would pop up on Google because I had interviews, especially on the front page. Anyway, what you're doing is good, but I would encourage you to record that and run it at other times and milk it for all you can because you can get a lot of mileage out of it.
Yeah, that brings up a point that my son is obviously younger than me, but of a different generation, and so he is just, I mean, Facebook, he's, Twitter, all that. I really encourage you to get all of your stuff, make sure your app's linked that way and everything so that people can, if you have a podcast that you run, make sure that goes out onto Facebook. Social media it's a whole community that functions like a community, and I am not the guy to speak with about any of that, but I'm sure someone else can help you. Someone helps me. I cannot help myself with that, but man, I am telling you, social media is so very, very, very vital right now. If you are not engaged and the radio is not linked to that or connected to that, it's very, very important.
You're losing out.
Yeah, absolutely. You're missing a huge pocket of people. Absolutely.
So the dragonfly effect, quick, powerful ways to engage social media if you want to learn. Actually, it's more like a strategy and tactics manual for how to optimize social media to get your message out. And dragonfly effect. I can't remember it's a Stanford professor and a sociologist.
Is that such a book?
Yeah, it's a book called The Dragonfly Effect. It's I got that from a Food Network editor person, so it's great. Yeah. So our major. I'm excited, by the way. The ideas are awesome. So just one quick word of advice. I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired, and this is like the end of the conference. Go back when you're fresh, or task somebody else. Get somebody else to do this if you've got that person. And get them to listen to this session, and because this is brainstorming, so some of your minds are popping. I've been working with Clark in Pittsburgh. They've done some amazing things. So go back and make notes and make a to-do list, and just kind of look at it all. And it's kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant, but that's okay because Chuck recently said, "Hey, I did a lot of things that didn't work," and I'm like, Chuck Smith did things that didn't work. I don't know why that was. I was like, oh, okay. So, you have permission to fail, quote unquote, but it's the gospel. So there's no such thing. I mean, God will take it all and use it. So, and you don't know what he's going to use. So take all these things and pray and just start walking in faith and walk out and try things. Just start trying stuff.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah. You just, so we're a little, I want to leave you some time. Okay. Really? Nothing?
I'm fine without, but however it works out.
Okay. So we do a football sportscast. It's their 8th season every Friday night from the first preseason games like mid-August all the way up to almost Thanksgiving. I pray. I was like, Lord, please, I hope they lose tonight because if they win, it's Friday night after Thanksgiving, and I love Thanksgiving holiday. That's me being selfish. It's wrong. I'm wrong. I repent, and I hope they win because it would be, if they did win, we would be doing a sportscast in the Citrus Bowl where our professional soccer team plays, and that would be awesome. So anyway, so 8th season, and we just walked in. We had a connection to the public high school, a guy that knew me, that I knew, that there was a believer and a neat guy, and he knew the coach. And he played football there. So we just, hey, can we meet? We have an idea to sportscast your games on an FM radio station. Oh, okay, great. We met, and we told him, this is what we have in mind. This is what we'd like to do. And he goes, okay, but we've got no money, so I can't pay you. It's like, well, we weren't asking to be paid. And he looked at us like, okay, why not? It's like, well, and I explained to him that we're an LPFM, and I explained quickly what that meant. I said, we have an obligation to serve our city of license, and And we just want to, we know you've got budget. At the time, there were budget problems. It's like, we want to help you with your budget problems. We want the football program to, and football is huge, like it is in the South, but in Florida, it's like a religion at times. So we want to help you. And he was like, okay. And it took time to get the broadcast really good, but right out the gate, I had a play-by-play guy that, God's been faithful to provide a play-by-play guy that's like college grade. Not too technical, so, everybody kind of understands, but sometimes too technical. Then I would, hey, can you explain this? And he would explain terms. So, God provided. And when we met with the high school, I did not have, not everything was in place. It was like, all right, let's find out if this is even possible. So, and it was the Lord. I wasn't, I was just excited to be in the public high school in my city of license. That's ridiculous. You can preach the gospel in Russia in public high schools, but you cannot do that in this country for the most part. So don't be afraid to look at your city and see, what is popular that I could pay attention to, give airtime to. Don't worry about, or don't, you want to think about resources and what do I need, and, what kind of people do I need? How much money do I need to buy equipment? Because, we eventually dropped about $6,000 on the best, the finest remote gear that's made. Comrex makes this access system that's just ridiculous. And we had at the time, we had better gear than ESPN in Orlando. I told the guy, actually ESPN was great with us. I just called him up. I said, hey, I run a radio station. This is what I do. This is what we're about. But we've never done football. Can you help me out? Oh yeah, man. That guy showered me with conversations. He gave me his cell phone number. He gave me his log. They call it the log, just kind of what happens minute to minute. When they break, when they don't. And he just kind of walked me through, how do you do football? I can call him anytime. And he was jealous of my stuff, which was cool. But the stuff, sometimes we look at our bank account first. We go, well, that's really expensive, so I don't have it. Who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills? Right. Who owns all the radio equipment that we need? Our Heavenly Father does, right? He invented, engineering is a science because of him. That's his idea, right? He engineered it all so that we could control and manipulate electrons and electrical energy and shape shift it, change its forms, send it over the air so that people can, we can be light, they can hear the gospel. So don't think about what resources you currently have. I'm not saying don't consider it, but don't make that a factor in, can we do this or not? Don't do that. Just start walking it out. Go for it. Talk to anybody. Talk to everybody. When the shutters were launching in our area, that stopped. But when it was happening, I was up there most every shuttle launch for a variety of reasons. One, got great interviews, got to talk to astronauts. Got to find out when you're on the space station for 6 months and you land in the steppes in Russia, it's like a really bad car wreck, and they get hurt. And there's 6 months of rehab after that. I mean, who knew that? So, but I got to hand my business card out. And they were like, "What do you do? Where?" So, astronauts, the lead scientist for NASA, got our information. I also gave her a Ravi Zacharias CD because she was Hindu, and her ethnicity was Hindu. So you just want to step out into what God's got going on for you. Your ideas for reaching the concerts, that's fantastic. Yeah, you just.
And a lot of that just really fell into our lap.
Yeah. So God wants to drop things in your lap, but if you're not out there, like Fuse, that's an awesome idea. You just don't know. Don't set limits. Just to be out there. We've got the guys in the booth. Some of those guys I've known for 8 years, and they know exactly. I see them at Publix. I say, "Hey, how's it going?" They listen to the radio station. Our listener hours on the internet double every fall, and it's because of football. And it's not just because we mount up all these listener hours on Friday night. I can look at the metrics for who's listening on the internet, and the internet it's a nice indication. I can look there and I can see who's listening from where and how long. And if you don't have access to that kind of information on your internet stream, they should provide that. You kind of, it's a nice thermometer. Sometimes you don't think anybody's listening. Sometimes I'm like, man, who is listening to this? And there's like lots of people. It's like, okay, he reminds me. You talk to people. If you're out in your community, be talking about your radio station. Give me 60 seconds. Okay, 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, and if I'm at the DMV, I can get them. Not that it's manipulating, but they ask, well, what do you do? Because I'm talking, and I tell them, oh, really? I flip them I know your radio station. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, what do you listen to? I listen to Damien Kyle at 7:30 every morning. And this lady doesn't go to our church. Malcolm Wild and Calvary Chapel Merritt Island, we've been in the community for 35 years. There's a lot of people that don't go to our church, but we are their church. Malcolm is their pastor. And I've never seen them. And I see most everybody. I'm all over when services are happening, I'm out doing pastoral things and talking to people, praying with folks, and I see lots of folks, and I never see some of these people. And there's lots of people in our culture right now, in particular, that have, maybe they're Christians. Well, no, let's say they are Christians, but they had a bad experience, and I'm a Christian, I just don't go to church, meaning I don't gather with other believers in a large context for whatever reason. I like Jesus, I just don't like his people, that kind of thing. So there's, that's like, okay, well, you should read your Bible more, but regardless of that not being accurate, they're out there, and your radio station sometimes can be the link to get them back. We've been praying for people that are backslidden or people that are hiding, that really are born again, but they've kind of withdrawn. And we've got a huge military veteran population that's homeless, and we got a guy who loves them and is out, knows where they are. He's close to the police force. We've got you've got chaplains. We've got chaplaincy in our sheriff's department that's that I don't tap into at all. And as I'm saying that, as I'm thinking that, I'm telling it to you right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, look what I've not done. So not a failure, right? But it's an opportunity for other people in my church to say, hey, here, I've got some ideas. Let's meet. Let's talk about this. And then that's another thing. You want to spend time, effort, and energy into reaching out to your community. So that's it. We've got a minute or two or three.
No. Sure.
No, sorry, Ron, here.
You've got a good 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, just a couple thoughts on Lamar Advertising. We've been doing this for probably 20 years plus. If they have unsold billboards, they'll give you the billboards if you pay for the paper. So they're committed to giving a certain amount to nonprofits. So if you contact them and say, I'll buy paper if you give me free spots. And their arrangement is, if they sell the spot, they take you down. But their commitment is they'll let it up for 30 days, minimum of 30 days. So that's something to think about. We end all of our spots with promotional, where they're paid promotions, with the announcer saying, Funk Construction committed to providing Christian radio to Lebanon and Lancaster counties. Because I want the advertiser to hear that over and over, that he is committed to providing Christian radio to Lebanon and Lancaster County. That's the only person I care about hearing that. But I want him to hear it, so when I renew, he's committed to providing Christian radio to Lebanon and Lancaster counties. The second thing is, people in business, they get generous end of November, beginning of January, beginning of December. So I try to do yearlies, and my renewal is end of November, beginning of December. That's your best time to go. That's when they're thinking about giving. That's when they know what their profit's like for the year. And depending on the kind of the business, they've had some big months because of Christmas. And I would strongly suggest that. We've done the lawn signs. Those have been good. Our logo is our frequency, 93.1, 97.7. Solid Bible teaching 24/7. Solid Bible teaching 24/7. And as we said earlier, we're nothing but Bible teaching. Because if you think about it, the people that come gushing to you, it isn't about your music. They come gushing to you about the Bible teaching. And so I don't want to take the chance that someone's looking for teaching and they find radio, because they can find Christian radio anywhere. I mean, music. They can find that anywhere. We've got strong stations in our area that do a mix, but no one does solid teaching. So we do that. We also want to have the best teachers on we can. I am the very notable exception of that. But we do want the best teachers we can because we want that quality. Something else to think about is the impact, long-term impact your station is having in a community. You know, a lot of people don't know they need Bible teaching. They don't know the difference until they start getting a diet of it, because they're not getting it on a Sunday morning where they are. And the longer they live with it, the more they like it. And now here's something to think about, guys. When that person is put on a search committee for a pastor, don't you think it's going to have an influence who they look for? And that's what I mean. Over long term, we have no idea the kind of impact we can have in communities. We also, I'm sorry, I thought I had this thing on stun, and I don't. There. We also, for giving, we have boxes in the back of our church. That's how people give. We have a box for tithes, benevolence, building fund, and radio station. And we will typically get $500 to $1,000 on a Sunday morning for the radio station. So that's primarily how we fund it. Our advertising, our promotion, forgive me, we probably have 7 or 8 people on the station, and our packages are $300 and $500, and that's just what we offer, and they take one of those 2. And that works pretty well for us. We have a prison in our community. They tell me that they call it the seminary in the prison. That's pretty cool. We've looked at trying to find someone that would make little radios that would be preset to our frequency that couldn't be changed and hand them out in the prison. Someone is committed to funding that. Also, we have a lot of Amish in our area and conservative Mennonite, and they're not allowed to have radios, but they have them in their barns. And I love the idea of them hearing grace. In fact, when we got the station, that was one of my real drivers, that there would be Amish or conservative Mennonite who live in a legalistic world hearing grace for the first time. Because where else are they going to hear it? So that's a dream. Oh, and also, if you're not doing revenue share with programs, I'd suggest looking into that. Revenue share is where they'll give you 50% of whatever they sell, their income. And for us, that's with Greg Laurie. I can tell you the big ones. Greg Laurie is probably $2,000 to $4,000 a year. Compassion Radio, which is a good program, but they're another $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 a year. And there are some that don't produce anything. There's some I don't think tell the truth, right, Bill? There's some that don't really, but it is a good, and it's just by asking for the revenue share. It's a simple 50-50 agreement. Most people are that. In fact, when Bob Coy first went on, they were 80-20. They gave us 80%. They kept 20, so that was a big. No, on full powers, they'll pay to be on your station. Low power, I've tried hard. Chuck Missler paid for a little bit, but then he went away, and so a revenue share.
Yeah, our guys that we represent, they only buy prime time on LPFMs, but they will pay a small amount if it's drive time.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes. They will pay full power. They'll pay for prime
Right.
time.
So what Josh just said, for those of you watching online, is there are ministries that will pay for primetime placement. So early, morning drive, afternoon drive.
Josh, just a couple of examples of those. Would it be
So I know that Daniel has purchased time on
Daniel Fusco?
He's purchased time, yeah, definitely on Rob's station. But Rob is not an LPFM.
Right.
So the LPFMs, generally what we try to negotiate is a 2-year contract, maybe a ramp, maybe not. But prime
of drive time, right?
Yeah, because it's a smaller footprint. It's not like Rob's footprint. It's huge, you know. And then we'll contact LPFMs and say, this is the lineup of guys we represent. You know, and most radio stations they want that teaching. You know, like Tom's talking about, they want that Bible teaching.
Is he the only one right now that you're repping that is doing that?
No, we've got at least a dozen guys who are buying time.
That are buying time? Why are you not telling me that?
Well, here's the thing I will tell you. Every station manager here, I will send a bulk email out to our entire client database. Happy to do so. There's two things I need you to send me. If you have a rate card,
Yeah.
if you have a coverage map, and if you have demographics, we would prefer to have those three things. I will send a bulk out, and you never know. I mean, when I do that for the bridge, an hour, 2 hours, it's done. They buy the time because it's an amazing market.
Because of what they cover.
You want to repeat? By far, I can tell you this: we have guys on all over the world, and the bridge is the #1 market that we have as far as client feedback. A very, very close second, very close, is Hope FM. The stories from the listeners at Hope FM.
Bill, you got to do a little bit better.
Oh, it's very, very close. That's why I say that. Hope FM, it's astounding. I mean,
So-
Dan Sexton, some of the guys on Hope FM, the miracles that God has done there.
So for those listening, what Josh is saying is if you could send him a coverage map, a rate card, and demographics, if you have it, to his productions, and then he'll be able to give you the guys that might be able to pay.
If you would too, please say this. We're not brokers.
Yeah, Josh is not a broker.
We don't buy time and resell
Yeah.
it. There are other entities that do that. This is a service we provide to pastors and to
For your clients. Yeah.
Yeah, because we love it.
Yeah.
We do production. That's what we do. We do branding, marketing, that things. Selling time is not what we do.
Yeah.
So we try to connect pastors with station managers because two things happen. The church saves money. They don't pay that extra 15%. You radio guys, you get that 15% because you need it. You know, you can't. You need as much revenue as you can get, and you don't need somebody like me fiddling with that.
Keep going. You're done? It can't be. Any other questions for our panel? Yes, John.
So Adrian Rogers will pay too. His representative wanted to come and he couldn't, but he's looking for Calvary chapels and they will pay.
Okay, so John says that Adrian Rogers is willing to pay low power FM as well.
Yep, we're low power and they pay.
Okay.
They're looking for more low power and they want Calvary chapels.
Okay.
What's the name of the ministry? Adrian Rogers? Love Worth Finding?
Love worth finding.
Love worth finding.
Oh, Bill, what do we have to hand out? What did you get? Yeah. We have a box of Alistair Begg handouts they sent us, and we'll get that to you before you leave. They sent us some material, obviously to promote Alistair Begg's show. So we gave a card with their program on it. I got the box.
Revenue sharing for sure. I don't
Alistair Begg does a revenue sharing. Okay. Yeah. How is that, Kevin? You have it on? I mean, give an example of a low power Alistair Begg, full power. What does that look like in revenue?
It's 70-30,
70-30.
if I remember correctly.
70 your side?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So, you all do a good example. How do you feed back to the program? Do you provide them any feedback?
So the question is, how do we feed back to the?
Relationship with your program? So do you have someone who contacts Fred Laurie, for instance?
I will tell you that, and this is just an encouragement. What we tried to do last year is send a thank you note to every ministry that's on our station. A couple of things that drive me crazy, Josh, is that the people we put on, we want to be listed on their website. That drives me crazy. And I've talked to Joe Foch's guys and his son, and the thing that drives me crazy is you have these ministries and we're not on that. And so by sending out that card, we're just reminding them, hey, we're playing your program. And by the way, we got permission to put everybody's program on. We called every single ministry and didn't just pull the FTP from it. We called every ministry and said, do we have your permission to put your program on? Guys, we need to not do what we've done in the past. Is just, hey, everybody gets that FTP, you put the guy on, and then you find, the guy says, David Rosales, for example, oh, I didn't even know I was on those stations. So, yes, Josh.
Yeah, Kimberly was asking about some of the shows that we have. I would definitely ask that. If any of you are airing his productions programming, let us know because that's exactly what
Yeah.
we do. I'll contact Sandy Adams.
Yeah.
Contact Sandy.
Which we're not on him, by the way. We just noticed that on Sandy Adams. We're not on that. Josh is saying to contact, if you play any of his productions, pastors, I'm on that list. Let Josh know so he can inform those ministries. But I just think that's appropriate to get permission and to let them know. I mean, when we contacted David Rosales people, it was a blessing. Hey, thank you for doing that. Damian Kyle was the same way. Hey, thanks for doing that. You like to know where your radio show. I mean, at my radio show, I like to know that. Someone sends me an email. Hey, we're going to put you on now at this time. Great, thank you. I can put that on my webpage now and let listeners know. Yes, Joey.
It was just like a bad habit that somebody picked up, but it's necessary to do that.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of reasons, IT reasons,
Yeah.
security reasons.
Yeah, it is. Security reasons too. I mean,
A lot of programs now are generating user-specific passwords.
yeah.
So it's just really, really important that
Yeah.
you call and ask permission.
And you're building that relationship. Like we air Family Life. And let me give you an example of something cool that happened with them. And that's by the way, not very many. I didn't want to have Dobson on. I wanted to have some kind of marriage thing on. And Family Life is excellent. I may not agree with on everything, but it's really, really close. They're really great. And so we put them on 2:00 while moms are sitting in lines to pick up their kids. We focused and targeted that. And they do a weekend to remember. If you don't know anything about Family Life, come talk to me later. But it's a great ministry. And they do a weekend to remember in Myrtle Beach. So because we built a partnership with them, they this year gave us to hand out to listeners a free weekend to remember, paid for, hotel paid for, and conference. It's like $1,000. Plus like 4 other conference registrations free just to give out on the radio. And so we did a contest, had a little form, right? And people signed up, and we got a lot of response because we put it right after that show. And I mean, flooded that. And then Family Life does a promotion about that weekend to remember in a specific location in Myrtle Beach. So we ran that. And then they allowed us to have that table at the weekend to remember. So when you're contacting those ministries, that's what I'm saying is you're building those relationships. That's what's important. So please do that. Please contact Josh or Genesis Productions, right? You're on Genesis Productions. Yes.
Who would you contact at a church in order to see if they would pay for time or share? Like, who's the contact person typically?
Josh.
Yeah, so I could say a couple things. One is all of the programs that we represent, you do not need to contact them directly.
Yeah.
You contact us, and we can help.
So the question is, who would you contact at a church to find out?
I would probably say the creative arts pastor, generally, or the media director. It just depends on the size of the church, who you have. If it's a smaller church, it might be the pastor himself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like for me, if you were contacting me, I'm it. But I would also send you to Josh and say, okay, he'll figure out what to do with our program because you're going to get it from him anyway. So.
And one other thing, we have moms in Carloop. I don't know who plays Cheryl Broderson, but if you're not, as a woman,
Yeah.
nobody better than out there.
And we have Kay Smith and Cheryl Broderson on Saturday right after a little family hour and then Family Life. So it's this kind of morning of family. I love listening to Cheryl, by the way. I love listening to Kay. I I really enjoy it. So we don't have it on the weekday. We have family life in that spot, but I really enjoy it. What did you have, Clark?
I was thinking, I thought about this at times. We've been doing this for 3 years now, just about 3 years. And predominantly it's Calvary Chapel, right? So the pastors in the area, I don't know if there's sort of a weirdness, like, okay, first of all, we're in an area where most people don't even know what Calvary Chapel is. Is this some kind of cult?
Right.
All they have is Calvary.
Right.
Pastors perhaps may feel a threat too, because here we are, we're trying to meet everything, and is it self-serving at times? I'm sure it is, and we have to check our motives on that, but, how do we engage these other guys to partner? We're doing a thing this coming Saturday with 30 churches called Project Stand. It's a stand against the war on drugs. Now, I'm a little apprehensive because I don't have a lot of time to be involved in a lot of other things because I'm bivocational plus a full-time pastor, so I have to really watch my time and my energy. But at the same time, I don't want to be seeing, well, all he wants to do is what he wants to do.
Right.
His stuff. And every time they're there, and we find out it's Calvary Chapel, Westmoreland.
Right.
And so, have any of you guys thought about that? How do you?
I'll tell you what I've done so that when we first launched, we had Calvary Chapel Myrtle Beach ads running all the time. And then when we started getting into the community, I realized, you know what, that may be a stumbling point for other churches and other pastors specifically. So what we did is we pulled all Calvary Chapel Myrtle Beach promotional ads off the station. All of them are gone. There's a couple of them on Sunday morning, right, because you're driving to church. So this is a church for you. So we don't have any other of those ads. So we really have changed that, and I have seen the difference of that. And other churches now are more comfortable. And I think when we've done that concert series specifically, there was so many churches at that concert series that they just saw the station for what it was. They didn't see Calvary Chapel. Granted, yes, they're going to hear Calvary Chapel all day long, but they're going to hear Ravi Zacharias too, and Family Life, and Wall Builders during the day. So there's a little bit of break in there. And I don't know what the balance is. That's why we have this room. Rob.
I wanted to get back to the programs. We were talking about the programs before. What we do, couple tips I can give you. We have voice trackers that are out of town. You don't necessarily have to have voice trackers to do this. You can have somebody make the announcement for you. But at the end of the programs, as much as possible, we say, if you were touched by today's program in any way, contact, and you have to say the name of what the ministry is, and let them know. That has made a dramatic difference in the response. Just letting the listeners know that they check.
And you're doing that, and I know we just figured out how to do this in station playlists, because you can tag that specific program and put that file in, and it automatically hits that file every time at the end.
That's part one.
Yeah.
Two is, if they don't know how to get in touch with the ministry, you go right to our website.
Right.
Go to our website and they respond, two things happen. They click on the teacher, whoever it is, the program, whether it's national or it's Calvary Chapel or it's a local church, doesn't make a difference who it is. That email not only goes to the ministry, but also we get a copy of it too.
Nice.
Purposely.
So it's a form. It's not just a click through. Yeah.
And purposely, because we want to track, because I will say with the national, not Josh's stuff, and not the Genesis stuff, and the guys in California, they're pretty good about this. It's changing a little bit. I will say with the bigger ministries in California that can pay, they're hiring media directors, they're looking for ROI. We're starting to see a shift with that. The national guys have been the toughest ones to deal with. When I say national, these are the guys that go to the NRB. NRB used to be, you go down in Nashville, wherever NRB was, and you'd be able to do deals. And quite honestly, Salem and Bott, they're eating up all the money.
Yeah.
Not putting the money into radio, it's Salem and Bott, they're putting it into television. And I know because they tell us. So they see us as kind of the oddity. And all Calvary Chapel is honestly as the oddity.
Yeah.
So they will do some revenue share. That's what they're looking to do. Now looking to do cash. But if they're doing cash, and this is very true. This is what we're hearing. It's cash or revenue share. If I hear this one more time. Gee, we noticed response is down. Oh, really? That's interesting. Because I'm hearing from Josh, the response is up. I'm hearing from local guys, the response is up. I got to add more seats into my church. I'm getting local agencies that purchase Christian, give me the Nielsen ratings, and the ratings have tripled. I'm looking on TuneIn. Everything's shooting up, and I got these clowns telling me everything's down. So somebody's lying. I say, okay, do me a favor. Why don't you
Hey, so for those watching on the internet, I just want to recap what Rob Taylor from Bridge FM just kind of said, and correct me if I get it wrong. But it's the environment for revenue share, especially if you're in a larger market, so the bigger FM stations, which would be, K-Wave out west and the other western stations, is, the money's going toward TV. Everybody, the FCC, they're all like TV is the gold mine. But what Rod's reiterating is, that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is the Bible teaching that stations like us and Bridge FM are providing are feeding people, and people are getting nourished and discipled and back in churches. And so what's actually happening is God's at work, growing. Right. 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 Okay. Great. So Rob, just the other important point is that when somebody is prompted by a short spot at the end of a Bible teaching program to contact the program provider or Joe Foch or whoever it is, or if they don't do that, the spot prompts them to go to the Bridge FM website, and that listener who's been touched by the Lord goes to the Bridge FM website and contacts a station to thank them or whatever, or email the teacher. This radio station gets a copy of that, so the radio station is seeing the real contacts of listeners, or as the listeners reach out to the teacher, the Bible teacher, the radio station's also getting a copy of that. So they're actually seeing listener response for themselves. Right. Right. Yeah, they don't want to share. Okay, so to recap what Rob just said for you, those of you online, national ministries, in order to credit you and to share the revenue that they promised they would share with you, right, to keep their agreement with you, they need to be able to have all your accurate contact information, and you need to go to the national ministry personally. That could mean a number of emails or phone calls and follow-up to make sure you're actually getting credited for the contacts. So, right. Yeah. Right. So people know you as the Bridge. So zero. Right. Right.
Yeah, and get that information to Josh. If you're playing anything from his productions or from Genesis, just please let them know. And you're right, you have to stay on them. We had to call David Rosales several times and say, "Hey, listen, we're listed wrong, or the time's wrong, or whatever." Let me end with this about money and what's coming in. When we started the station, I knew for the most part no one was going to pay us to be on our station. I knew that. I knew that going in. So it wasn't like, okay, I got to get so many guys and I have to revenue share. And that's great if that works. And I want to call Greg, people. But I was never expecting that. So if you get money, great. But again, most of our low power FMs and most of our stations are church funded, and that's it. And if money comes in, if Josh gives us money from a client, great. But I was never expecting that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm not necessarily concerned about the biggest guys on our station. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about having the 5 major Calvary guys on our station, because I don't. I think the biggest guys are Joe Foch right now and Damian Kyle that I have. I do have Greg Laurie on. I have Greg Laurie on for evangelism, So I wanted to have teachers that more reflected how I teach, because that's what they're going to get when they come into the church. Listen, I have Bill Lukeman on. Hold on. I love his teaching. And it's the same thing with Tom Keller. There are teachers that I believe in Calvary Chapel Radio that we can put on that are going to surprise your flock and going to blow your community away. Again, sorry, Tom. Tom did his teaching on fasting, and we handed it. It was so good. I burned it. I had to pull it off the radio, off your website. So, by the way, pulled it off the website, burned it, and handed it out to everyone in the church. Burned it to a CD. Yeah, burned it to a CD, because it was. We've sold it now, and we made T-shirts. So you'll maybe get a cut. Yeah, with my face on it. Yeah, but the point is, and listen, no one knows about Tom in Calvary Chapel. But this is the point. There are guys out there that are teaching that are incredible. Josh represents them. And put them on your station. They're excellent teachers. Tony Clark from Calvary Chapel Newport News, which we got last year that we put on, phenomenal. One of the very few black pastors in Calvary Chapel. Excellent teacher. Yeah, Rodney Finch. There are guys, Al Pittman. We have Al Pittman on the weekend. But what I'm saying is, we tend to think, well, put all these huge Calvary Chapel pastors on it and everyone will listen. But we're just getting Bible teaching out. And get guys out there that you agree with in your ministry. And don't worry about, and this is the point, don't worry about revenue sharing. Don't worry about being paid, because for the most part, you're not going to. And the church is picking up the tab. Just like you said, you're getting $1,000 a weekend in the church. That's how we're being funded. We knew, and I brought to the church, this was the expense per month. And that's always being covered. Now, I'm trying to get my brother on full-time to run the station, and I need that staff money. But other than that, we presented that all to the church when we went online. So the church knows that the radio station is funded by the church and not by ministries.
One comment. It's going to vary from location to location, but it turns out we have a Baptist pastor in our community who teaches verse by verse. And early on, we've had him on the weekend. He was a paying partner on the weekend.
Hold on. And this is great conversation. This is what we want to do. I know we're a little long and everybody's going to pass out, but hold on a second.
We had a Baptist pastor in our community teaching verse by verse. I was excited to learn about that. He became a weekend partner with us for a while, and for a year or two, and then he came back to us and said, at the time our signal wasn't so hot in his area. He said, we're going to direct that money somewhere else. We won't be paying anymore. And I said, that's fine. I'll tell you what, if you keep producing the program, I'll keep you on for free. And he said, really? And I said, sure. So we did. We kept him on for free. The signal got better. The Lord opened up some doors for us. Right. He's now on Monday through Friday in a primetime spot as a ministry partner with us. I tell you that for two reasons. One, a little goodwill goes a long way sometimes. Yes. The other thing is, and the Lord brought him to us, but be open to the fact that there may be somebody around your area teaching verse by verse, like you know what I'm saying?
Right. But his show is professionally produced. And that's the caution, because you can have. And I don't know of any. And this isn't our arrogance, but we really are Calvary Chapel, Myrtle Beach, we're kind of it, verse by verse teaching in this county. But you got to be careful not to have the local guy doing it in their basement and then putting it on. It has to be professionally done.
You got to maintain quality.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just going to be very quick. I don't mean to keep.
I don't believe you, but go ahead.
I don't mean to keep beating up on the national ministries, but you have to remember one thing with them. I know you want to. If you put them on your station and you're running them, and you feel like, well, I need to have them on for validity purposes, though I have David Jeremiah on my station, but you're not getting paid. You know, they're soliciting for a lot of product. And the most important part is, because I know on the radio, and they do pay us, and you know, we're a very expensive operation to run. We have a lot of tower rent. I mean, it's a big network, so they do pay. But they make us wait a very long time for the payment. And not only us, it's everyone that they pay. And the excuse is, well, we have to pay the TV guys first. These big ministries put a lot of money into television, and those TV stations want that money up front, or that thing's not going to air.
Your point about validity, I think, is important. Don't think that I need to have these certain pastors on so my station becomes or becomes, you know, this legitimate. Again, think about the other smaller Calvary teachers that are good Bible teachers. That's my point. You got to.
Hang on, Bill.
We'll come back.
Okay, so we're a small church. We need the radio station to help the church and not vice versa because we're in a depressed area. We do have a lot of the big national guys, they draw an audience, but our small local guys pay our bills. And the local pastors will pay well. And we try to be selective and find good guys. And then they promote our station through their churches. They're like, listen to my program. And that has worked really well for us. They pay the bulk of our bills. And so I would encourage you maybe find some really good local pastors. For us, we're the only show in town. No one else will let them go on the radio. And our history was we wanted to go on the radio. Everyone told us, no, there's no spot for you. So we built our own radio station. So now we can share the blessing and let some really good, solid Bible preachers come on. So for us, that's been a big solution for funding.
And Ed Taylor is doing that out of Aurora and Denver. All of the Calvary chapels around Denver, and I know Ed wanted to be here at the conference, but they couldn't come. But that's what they do. All of the metro, and yeah, listen, Denver's a big area. They have big churches. They can afford a lot to pay Ed to do that. And Ed's station, I think, would probably be compared to the Bridge, far as large. But yeah, if you've got local guys that want to pay, great. Bill.
I've been also saying for years that we should be looking to trade with other stations that are approximately the same size. And I trade with Ed Taylor in Colorado. He's on our station, I'm on his station. And I get emails from Colorado, which still amazes me. But a lot of you guys have LPFM stations, and if you can't sell the airtime and get income for it, why not trade and put your program on someone else's station and you put their program on your station? Now, you might not be getting money for that time spot, but what you're doing is you're leveraging your radio station to get your ministry into other towns. And some of the full powers here are not that big and could easily trade. So Tom Keller's LPFM is 3 or 4 times bigger than some of the stations that are full power. So it doesn't just matter if you're full power or low power. In fact, full power is not even a term that the FCC recognizes. So you look at the area covered and the number of people and try to do a swap with somebody. If you could get 10 time slots a day with people you traded with, that's only 5 hours out of the day, but now your own program is in 10 other cities. And so instead of getting money for the slot, I'd rather have the money. But if you can't get the money, we got bills to pay too. If you can't get the money and you could trade with somebody, I think it's a great idea. And you mentioned how so many pastors, and I've said the same thing for years, you don't need the big name people.
Yes.
It's the Bible that does the speaking. It's not the people. And if you think you need, Greg Laurie and Chuck Smith, we have them too. But you don't need the big name people. You need the Word of God, because it's the Word of God that does the work. And if somebody that you never heard of is doing a good job with the Word of God, and you have a spot you can't sell, hey, trade with somebody. And this room here should be fertile territory for that.
Bill has been preaching that for a long time, and that's what we've been doing more and more this year. And so I don't know why Bill won't put me on his station, but it's about the same market.
Don't give in.
I'm going to provide a great segue, I hope.
He's very stingy on his time, though.
I got to start working in radio with CSN years ago with a guy named Mike Slack. John worked with him, but John has and is doing something successfully at his station that solves the revenue problem multiple, and he already talked about it. It's sports, guys. Sports is, the stations that I worked at CSN, we had some pretty prominent local, we had a great football team, a nationally ranked football team. We had state champion basketball teams, and it covered the annual budget completely, solvency. John and I watched Mike Slack, particularly when CSN was still a thing. The entire network nationally was in the red, bleeding. It was terrible shape. Mike came in with this idea with sports, and station after station after station went into the black. Solvency started happening. It got fixed. And you're doing a couple of great things. I want to toot John's horn here, because you're reaching into the community. You're fulfilling what you should be doing as a station, and you're bringing in revenue. And you're bringing in listeners that you may not, the guy whose son is the star quarterback for the local football team, who's a godless person, he doesn't care what station it's on. If he can't make the game, he's going to listen to your station to hear his boy throw the ball. He's going to tune in. So you get to do a lot of different things, but when you're talking about revenue for stations, I know I'm a producer, so I'm kind of speaking out of my expertise here, but I know guys like John, guys like Mike Slack have used sports, and I know you're going to be talking about that hopefully soon.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be going into it. So we're going to, any more questions? And this is one of those things that we can bat back and forth. That's why Rob's session on underwriting was so important, because we want to have the dialogue. But let's just end with Bill's point. Again, you don't have to have the biggest guys on your station to make your station anything of being legitimate. Just get Bible teaching guys. And if you have another local guy, Scott, if I had another local guy that had verse by verse, and doctrinally, I would have no problem with that, because it's the body of Christ. But I had a frustration, because I'm a senior pastor. Some of the senior pastor conferences, it's always the same teachers, and it's frustrating, because I know that there are other guys out there, and every once in a while they bring in somebody that no one knows, and it's excellent. And that's the point, is it's not always about the big name. It's just about the teacher. So let's get these teachers on our station. And again, if you want to trade, let's trade. I'm doing that deal up in Jersey, talking to Houston, doing those deals, and Josh will be able to help you with those deals. If you want to trade, if you've got time spots, that's what I would say. Hey, Josh, I got a 2:30 open. See if you can fill it. And he come back and say, yeah, I got somebody that they'll trade with you, and here's a spot. And that's the best thing to do. Guys, we're brothers. We're all doing the same thing. Brothers and sisters in Christ. We're doing the same mission. Let's get the gospel out.
One more quick thing, kind of what he's talking about, Reno Sparks. How many of you guys go to your local ministerial association meetings in your communities? So that's a great place to find other Bible teachers that might be in your town that you don't know about them. I don't know about across the church, this beach church or whatever it's called. But you might be able to find other verse by verse or close to verse by verse Bible teachers. Just go into a local ministerial meeting.
Can I piggyback on that real quick? One of the guys, one of our pastors in the community, Calvary pastor, sort of picked up the ball on a ministerial association in his community, invited me down there, and we got everybody in there. We got Episcopals, Lutherans, non-denominational, everything in there. And so I've been going to those meetings regularly for the last several months to let them know that I'm here. I'm a Christian radio station, want to, promote events. There's an event coming up where they're all kind of collaborating. And then at the last meeting, I found out about a big food outreach that one of the churches is going to be launching this fall for Thanksgiving. And so it gave me an opportunity to interview this guy. I'm going to put him on the radio talking about the food outreach, spotlight the fellowship. Anyway, the point of it all is, I know hurting pastors is like, yes, cats and any other cliche you can think of. It's a challenge because everybody's busy. Everybody's got a lot of people pulling at them. But if I would encourage the pastors that are listening to try to connect with others, do that because it pays off in a lot of different ways. But for radio stations, if you got somebody who's connected to one of those, get involved with it and spend some time because you'll make some good contacts. And I'm eager to see what is going to take shape from this, going forward, because I want them to know that I'm a fixture in the community. I'm here. I want to be your Christian radio station. I want to be where you go to get, fed and resources and stuff. So anyway.
Great. David?
Give this jockey a microphone. Here you go.
Yeah.
One real quick thing. We just started doing this. Some of the guys in our area, they don't have produced programs. They don't have enough to be going every day a half an hour, or they could probably go a weekend thing for a half an hour. But we had a spot in the morning that we'd pulled a program that we no longer supported. And our community rep guy says, hey, I've got an idea for some of these local churches. If we could get 5 local churches that are willing to pay to be on 8:30 Wednesday morning, hear Pastor Ray McCormick at New Life Baptist Church. He's on one day, half an hour that week. Wednesday morning is his day. Get another guy on Thursday, another guy on Tuesday, another guy on Monday. So that they're advertised that way. That morning, that day is their half hour for the week. And each one of them are paying, and they end up paying cumulatively more than one guy would pay, for the 5 days.
That's interesting. Okay. Apologize for going long. Why don't you take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 10:50. It's like 6-minute break in it. 10:50, and then we'll go into his live, John Bracken's live panel. And a lot of this will continue, so.